Hi, my name is John Poole, and this is my week 6 final assignment for my education class 657, History and Philosophy of American Higher Education. Starting off, I like to start off with a quote just to kind of set the mood for the paper. It is said that those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it, and this is said by George Santayana, a great Mexican philosopher, and I believe it fits education to the T. In the formation of the collegiate system that we know and love today, it was not as easy establishing as the colonists first believed it would be on paper. Going back to the beginning, our education system was typically basically based off of the England system, and a big focus was based placed on religion, philosophy, arts, theology. So those items were basically the main focus of the curriculum was based around those for the education of classes or curriculum. This was the basis for the beginning colleges, essentially. One would ask, how did the education system go from that to make that transition now to where it went from those four courses or core courses to the 200 plus that we have today of different majors and concentrations for students? And the answer is a little bit easier to explain. We are said that it is said that the only mammal that can adapt to fit any situation is human beings. So, adapting is what we've done from that period up until now. The century prior was one of great troubles and turmoil. We went through two major world wars, and we were coming off of a civil war as well, decades beforehand. The economy was also unsettled, not only due to the after effects of the wars, the ripple effects that happens from that, but because of the Great Depression and the Industrial Revolution. So our economy went through a very decline, a deep decline, steep decline, and then it went up as well, a big increase. To the naked eye, it may seem that the nation was more focused on its political propaganda instead of education. However, during this phase is when college became college, essentially. Many people were fighting to be given rights, some of those very familiar to us, African Americans, for example, while others are often pushed to the side, whereas the battles that the women and other minorities and the careers had to fight to gain their respect, those were kind of looked over. During the times of war, it was teachers were basically the education was basically made of a lot of males. Males held the administration positions, males held the teaching positions, the discipline positions. Everything was held by males. Well, when the wars kicked in, it left a lot of opportunities for women to take over. So women took action and became the teachers and kind of made a mold to where they have established themselves as competent teachers to where we see them today, as where most of the teachers are female. Um, Teachers were in that time frame. Teachers were looked as the light bearers to our dark society, and it meant a lot socially for women to not only sorry not only be able to enroll and attend college, but to be able to become teachers as well and hold very high administrative roles. The curriculum also took a turn during this time frame. Two very popular majors today that we all know of and acknowledge when we think of school, medical and law, well, those were added in during this time frame. This, the computer wasn't moving really well. It is hard to picture a society being without those two key features because everyone gets sick and everyone needs someone to defend them. And yet, the colonists before us was able to achieve that. Could women be the only ones to fully rule a society, a school? Although, as a note, there were women-owned colleges as well as African American-owned colleges as well. But no, they cannot fill every college or the student body of every college cannot be of only women. The country took a notice to this and noticed that we had a lot of veterans that were coming back and really had a lot of needs to be taken care of. The the country basically or the nation, the president realized they were young, There were some old and some young, some dealing with the adjustment process of coming back from a war or being stationed, and the GI Bill came up. And this bill essentially allowed veterans to go ahead and attend school, get their degrees for almost nothing. The government covered it for them. This had a tremendous ripple effect on the education community because the enrollment increased exponentially. The staff had become outnumbered and had to face really horrible teacher-student ratios. But on a positive side, they did open up the door for new majors to show up. During this time frame, a lot of the stereotypes that were established previously, whereas women staying home, women not being able to hold jobs, not being able to support themselves in a single household, African Americans being limited, not holding administrative positions, and veterans not being taken care of, were able to be destroyed during this time period because of this bill and the stuff that education is making as a whole. The Buning States video, he mentions that the typical race and gender of school was going to change, which was basically the Caucasian male, typically younger, where their family had background enough to have good financial backing. This diversity that was coming up to the school campus or the school itself became popular. It in turn made the education community have great improvements in their teaching abilities, teaching approaches, and we were making leaps as a whole to apply that diversity to the job opportunities that were being created. The idea of higher education had always been looked upon with great honor and prestige, and this was way back when the schools had been first created, back with our campus template of using the England background. Gray would mention in her video that a major drawback of education would be that the honor and prestige that was granted upon it. Graduates were expected to possess some great knowledge upon graduating that would differentiate him or her from those that did not have degrees. Obviously, the flaws in that thought process are astounding. Many graduates did not possess necessary skills, nor were they experienced in putting those skills to effect that they learned. Due to this, while enrollment was still going great for colleges, many eligible people were instead going just straight to the working market or the job market to build up experience versus knowledge because they held that experience would matter more to a company than knowledge. The book knowledge, I should say. Gray touched upon one of the great flaws that we have in our education system, and that it has become more of a show or theater. This essentially means that schools have become so involved in how they were perceived by the community and student body that they took their focus off of their actual students and the curriculum and development. The students now, we've heard many cases where students have become were able to pay for their degrees. Um, Teachers were taking money to pass students. They passed off the responsibilities that they weren't enrolled to stay active in their learning and essentially became more interested in the campus lifestyle, the parties, the sports life, the dorm life. This made the public look at the education community as a whole in a different light. And when that happens, when you lose public support, a lot of things take place and a lot of changes become very difficult to do, which I can testify as being in that field. Mentioning all of the responsibilities of the college and its staff, where would they get the money to fund all of these functions? In the past, the government surprisingly played a smaller part in the education field than it does now. Funding in the past were primarily from entrepreneurs, companies that receive a certain portion back or return on their investment, and private pay for the most part. Of course, the cost of education would be different given the time frame, but the average cost of tuition was around $200 to $450. This is a great difference from the tuition that we have today. As the effect of the wars and that America was facing, and the responsibility of taking care of their veterans, the government wanted to become more involved in the financial team of education. Schools still had its previous funding, which is $3 earlier, but now the government gave the school money for each of their students, regardless of the results. This is important because when they had a push to get into higher education, that's essentially where the ball dropped. As the years continued on, America became part of the Industrial Revolution. This revolution hit the nation and provided nearly every citizen with a great economic boost. Money was flowing all around the nation, which made higher education more affordable, and in turn, it had to step up and produce graduates that could use their knowledge to keep this movement progressing. The In addition to those, I guess the private pay funds, scholarship funds, grant, and student loans became more common for students to afford college. The cost of tuition raised, although along with the cost of living. In the last decade, government involvement with education has become even greater, as schools were not producing students that could give a return on investment. The schools would run out of federal funds, and thus the government could buy them out and become charter schools. Noticing that could create a public backlash, an alternative the government was coming up with. One of its programs, which is famous, is the No Child Left Behind. This program basically states that the school has a set number of years to reach a set goal or standard. If that school could not meet that goal, the federal funds would be taken away from the school. Without those funds, the school would not be able to function. They couldn't provide for the students, they couldn't get resources, they couldn't pay their staff. So of course the cost of the school would go down, and the state government could come in and turn it into a charter school. This is very rare in a college scene. However, it is similar to those students that have to take out student loans for education. Society is in a circle phase, and the progress has slowly come to a stop. Jobs in this market are now requiring a bachelor's degree or a degree to attain, whereas in the past it did not, and the pay is considerably the same. So students are forced to go back to school, most times having to take out student loans for their certification and their degree, all while maintaining the requirements of daily life, which includes family, health, personal needs. When the student is actually finally done to graduate and could accept the job, they now have not only to deal with the social requirements, but now they have student loans on top of that to pay back just to get the same job with the same amount of pay. Unfortunately, this circle does not help out or promote students to attend or finish college. To counteract this problem, there is no easy solution. In essence, schools have forgotten the goal, the initial goal, which was to put productive citizens or graduates first, and now have put the dollar sign on each student. And basically, the market is if your dollar sign is smaller than another student, the education system will look over you and your concerns. Just as entertainers have to appeal or maintain a certain standard with the public, schools have to do the same. If the school doesn't appear to be making money, doesn't appear to put the student first, or have their academics on the side, then the public will start to notice and their enrollment will drop, which in turn will cause the school to lose funding from the student loans, and then they face the possibility of closing. So many schools accept minorities to a certain number and certain genders to balance or promote equality, although the only thing the college is worried about is the funding. Many students never receive the essential financial aid information that they need and take out more than they can possibly pay back. Education now, at this point in the generation, has become a show career. The problem isn't that the focus has been taken off of the student, but the eyes are no longer on the knowledge of the student, but the cost of the student. It is said that the average cost of a student to attend a public university is $17,336. In this generation, has it become acceptable to be labeling a student as a price tag instead of a name? And that concludes my final assignment for the week 6. And the two topics were the post stage, and the financial aspect. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy.